Okay, cool. Thank you very much for coming on to our talk today. So today we're going to be talking about a number of chatbots that we've developed for a number of courses within the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. One that I worked on and one that Johnny worked on. So before we get into the chatbots and what they were, I will first just sort of go through a bit of context. So why is it doing
the keyboards?
Okay, the keyboard's like now. Technical disaster averted. So me and Johnny are both part of the digital education studio. So we're a multidisciplinary team of different expertise. So we've got project management, UX design, interactive web design, videography, multimedia production. And me and Johnny are senior learning designers. So we work with academic teams to develop mostly fully online digital. So our remit across the university includes sort of interdisciplinary expertise, improving student experience, expanding our DL portfolio, and creating capabilities and application for DL across the university and academic. So all our work is framed by the care agenda that we developed, so that all our work is co-created, it's active and authentic, it's relational, and based. And as part of that care agenda, we've got a number of programs. They were talking about chatbots will be created as part of the MA Medical Education, which I worked on, and the MSc Advanced Neonatal Practice that Johnny worked on. So, on to the pilot. The first chatbots we created, I did with the academics of the MA in Medical Education. The MA Medical Education program is fully online, asynchronous course, co-created with the Digital Education Studio and the academic staff from IHSC Queen Mary. It's designed for clinical educators from all health backgrounds, and it was launched in September 2023. So one of the key sort of things that we're considering is sort of the type of student we have on this program, and it's a very far-environment in medical education. They've got to balance teaching with clinical practice a lot of the time, and there may be fewer opportunities to observe or discuss teaching with others because they're engaged in sort of critical healthcare. And that's sort of key, well, sort of thought process behind why we might want to chat. And from that and from our care sort of principles, our sort of design philosophy and approach to this course was that learning needs to be active, authentic, visible. Social interactions and connections are at the heart of many of our activities, and this chatbot is complementary to those, not replacement. And learning is flexible and asynchronous first, so students can engage when they need to around their professional commitments, and choice and opportunity to bring in their own context to the learning. So what was the gap or the problem we were trying to solve? This was in a particular module, learning, education, leadership and innovation. And the assessment was that they had to implement a innovation project within their work context. And there's like a very broad scope for what they can do because there's contexts are all going to be different. And we've had people looking at creating training sessions to help with documentation for nurses or creating simulated wards for foundation year doctors, that kind of thing. And when we're talking about innovation, we're not necessarily talking about brand new to everyone. Innovation could be innovation for them, something new to them. So there was a tendency that the academics saw. So this runs as online, but it also runs in an in-person mode. So these were what they were seeing in the in-person before we redesigned it for online. There was a tendency to move towards sort of descriptive narratives or to try and sell the innovation like they're on Dragon's Den. And that's not what they were going for this assessment. We wanted greater depth, insight, to encourage students to approach reflection with criticality. And a key part of that was like the social learning that we've embedded with the module. But the issue potentially becomes sort of how do you get them to engage with those social interactions online when they're very visible, when students don't necessarily want to appear sort of socially embarrassed in front of their colleagues or their tutors. How do we get them to think through their ideas reflectively, critically, and engage in a way that builds confidence that they can then go into these social activities with that confidence. Obviously, as student numbers increase, it's increasingly difficult for staff to provide all this sort of experience one-on-one with students or anything like that. So what we developed was Professor Innovator. He's pictured there. And on the right, you won't be able to read it, but there's a little video showing like sort of what it looks like for students. And it's kind of mimicked around, or it's kind of skinned around a WhatsApp chat. So you'll see it going in there. And that was partly to sort of make it less intimidating, give it a bit more sort of human aspect to it, to help them engage with them. So what we asked the bot to do is to only ask open coaching questions to the students. There's lots of concerns going on around sort of hallucinations with AI, and we wanted to specifically avoid that issue. We wanted to avoid issues where students are put in a place where they're responsible for their collaborator, the AI that has no sort of reason to tell the truth or isn't programmed for truth. It's programmed to sort of please the person interacting with it. So it's only asking open questions. So the student might tell the chatbot that I'm going to be doing a project on drug errors, and I want to improve how we respond to drug errors in A&E. And the chatbot will respond with questions like, okay, how are you going to communicate that to your stakeholders? Who are your stakeholders? How are you going to implement that change? These kind of open, large questions. And what this is intended to do is to help students develop self-feedback. If you've got a good answer to the question, hopefully that builds your confidence. If you haven't thought about your stakeholders, maybe that prompts you to think, okay, maybe I haven't thought about everyone in the hospital. Maybe I need to think about, I know who the stakeholders are, but I don't know how to tell everyone. So maybe I need to dig deeper into that area of my project. It's a safe space to experiment, less social pressure, and it builds on sort of previous chatbots that people have experimented with. Briggs Gallagher from University of Wellington. So, yeah, the idea is that you've got this sort of structured support helps students think through ideas, rather than telling them it's not making any true claims, it's not going to tell them that their project's good or bad, that an idea is good or bad, it's only going to prompt questions. Obviously, there's an opportunity, maybe they'll ask you relevant questions. It might ask you, what's a catering at your training event going to be like? We do sort of scaffold it, so we integrate it within larger set of social activities, so that to get feedback from students, from teachers, engage with these activities, and so they can still get that connection, and that's vital for that experience. But this helps build their confidence, build that reflective practice, and build their idea from something that they've had to something that's more fleshed out. So how did the pilot go? The reception and the informal feedback were very positive. Unfortunately, the technical details were quite large. We had to create that new skin, use the API in ChatGPT, and those technical barriers took us longer to solve than we wanted to. It got implemented in the module quite late, which meant we didn't have a lot of opportunity for feedback, and this year we're hoping to get more. And that interdisciplinary needed is both sort of a strength, but also a challenge that we needed to get over. We presented this internally at our Festival of Education, and it also sparked a number of conversations going forward throughout the university about how this could be used in other courses. So that was sort of the pilot. Now I'll hand over to Johnny, that will go over to...
Yeah, so thank you, Tom. After the first iteration, then the chatbot was implemented in another online MSc. It is MSc Advanced Neo-Lingual Practice. So it is one of the 6 care agenda and programs that we develop in Digital Education Studio in collaboration with the academics. So before going to the checkboard, I would want to give you some background of this online program. So the students are mostly working in favorite edition, studying asynchronously. Therefore, there is a weekly tutorial, but there may not be real-time supervision. Like the chatbot could help the students to engage in learning 24/7, and also, as Tom mentioned, it's low stakes. So we hope that the students will have more confidence to strengthen their capability of clinical and reasoning. So
Johnny,
sorry,
could you speak up a little bit more?
Yes. Okay.
To hear as well.
Thank you, Chia. So I want to say when we design and develop the chatbot in collaboration with the academics, so we want to make sure that is a piece of coherent learning experience from start to finish. Therefore, we thought of the principle of constructive alignment. So what the students needed to achieve at the end. At the end, what the students needed to achieve is to complete a fishbone diagram in that particular week. So it's a piece of formative assessment. Therefore, we go back and thought of what learning activities could help them to achieve this. So at the very first beginning, the academic would give some input for the students to acquire the knowledge of fishbone diagram through a short lecture. And then the students were instructed to construct the diagram with the AI chatbot. Afterwards, we believe learning is a relational activity, so they would do peer feedback in Padlet. So with these 2 screenshots, it shows them learning experience of the students. So when we design and develop this chatbot with academics, we want to make sure that this piece is reflects the bigger picture of what is going on in terms of AI development or AI literacy development in the university. Therefore, we have made 3 points through the guidance. The first one is we want to make sure that AI is a thinking partner or a facilitator that would remind students that they are those who the ideas come from, and then it upholds students' agency. The second thing is we want to tell students that how this activity not only helped them achieve the academic outcome, but also the graduate attributes, because in pre-merit we have graduate attributes, and one attribute is be AI literate. So we also pointed them to some other resources, for example, in our academic skills center, how this helps. The last one is the AI guardrail by our IT department, is to remind them not to upload some private data from the patients or organization. So it is hoped that with these guidance that they know how to use AI ethically, responsibly. So the Copilot agent, why we use Copilot? Because as Tom mentioned, so for ChatGPT, I personally think it's more powerful, but at the same time, there is a lot of technical consideration. Therefore, what we used in this program is Copilot. So what the students need to do is to check with the fishbone diagram coach, and then with some prompting questions, and then they need to populate the diagram. So I'm not sure whether you are familiar with the fishbone diagram. So there are different components. So for the Copilot, it will guide them component by component. So it's step by step. It's not the students would have different chains of thoughts, and then they would populate the diagram like step by step. Because of the time constraint, I will not play this video, but basically it's more or less like Tom's piece. So there are some prompting questions, and then the students would need to interact, and the bot would not give any of the information, but just elicit the ideas from the students. So all the ideas come from the students, while the co-pilot is having a facilitation role. So now I hope you understand more about the learning experience, and I would like to talk through the design and development process behind. So first of all, this chatbot is co-created between the digital education studio and the academics. So the academics contributed to the prompting question, and then they wrote up a sample interaction so that Copilot picked up the convention of interaction, like how it could interact with the students. The second thing, active and authentic. So as I've mentioned, the Copilot agent or the chatbot would not give any of the information or clinical information. Instead, it elicited the ideas from the students. So that would reduce the risk of hallucination, which is very important in clinical education. Relational, so we include peer feedback. So we want to make sure that the students didn't act with the but also they have a chance to interact with the students. And last but not least, the design and development is evidence-based. So for the challenges, I think one point I want to make is like in future, as you could see with Copilot, it's mostly text-based. But in future, we want to have some audio input from students so it can interact with the AI engine or the chatbot, which is a direction that we are going. Especially when you consider universal design for learning, we want it to be multimodal. So in terms of the impact, that's like similar to what Tom has said. We are continuing to evaluate and gather the feedback. We gather the early feedback from the module lead, Deanna, and we are glad to see her thinking is an innovative, sophisticated piece, and of course, it's still in early stage. And we also looked at the Moodle analytics. We could see a certain level of engagement. But I mean, moving forward, what we want to do is not only implement this chatbot in learning activity, but it can be across weeks or across modules or across programs so that the impact can be amplified. And now I'll pass the time to Tom to talk about the next steps.
Yeah, just quickly in terms of next steps, we're going to be rerunning the first chatbot this semester to try and get more feedback. As I mentioned, it was implemented late because of the technical challenges. So we're looking at getting more feedback and more insights into how it might work in the future. We're continuing to work with colleagues across the university in ways different AI chatbots might work, whether it's working with academics to help design assessment, but we're also working other ways to sort of deal with those technical challenges, whether that's code environments or easier access to the APIs via programs via Scaffolds, University of Edinburgh. I think that's everything.